Okay, it's Miss Christine here again today. And remember, our stories are all from the Bible, and I'm going to tell you the next story about David, and I think you might already know this story. This is about a really huge giant named Goliath and little boy David. Well, he was maybe a teenager. The Israelites were fighting the Philistines, and remember, King Saul was on the throne. He was the king. And all of his men were so afraid of the Philistines, especially because Goliath was their main leader. And he came in telling them, "Who's brave enough to come out and fight me? You guys can't come and win. I'm going to hurt you all. I'm going to win the battle." And so everybody was afraid. Well, you remember that David was a shepherd boy and that Saul had anointed him as the next king. Well, he was home with his father and some of his brothers tending the sheep when all this was going on with the Philistines. And his father said, "You know, it's time to take some food to your brothers and check on them. Would you please take some food over there to where the battle is and give some food to your brothers?" So David went with his food, and when he got there, he saw this big, huge giant. I mean, he is taller than the ceiling in your houses. And he was mocking God and saying really bad things about God and about the people of Israel. And nobody would fight him. And David said, "I'll fight him." And his brothers said, "David, no, you're just a boy. You can't fight him. He's a warrior." So David said, "No, I really can. I can." And he went and talked to King Saul, said, "Can I fight Goliath, please?" And King Saul said, "Well, maybe. Here's my armor." But David tried it on. It was way too big, so he didn't want that. And he said, "You know, God has helped me before. He helped me to be saved from the lion and from the bear. And he gave me the strength to fight both of them. With God's help, I can fight the giant Goliath, and I can win, because God is going to win. This is a battle about God's name and God's honor." So King Saul allowed him to go out and fight Goliath. And Goliath said, "If you win, we'll be your slaves. And if I win, you'll be our slaves." So there's little Goliath with no armor and no sword. All he had was this slingshot and 5 smooth stones that he got out of the creek. And oh my goodness, Goliath laughed and he made fun of him. "You're never going to win. You're just a little guy. You can't do this." David prayed and asked God to help him. He said, "You are mocking the living God, and with God's help, I will beat you." And he swung and swung his slingshot, and the first stone hit Goliath right in the forehead between his eyes. And he fell over and died. And David, with God's help, won the battle, and everybody rejoiced, and all the Philistines ran away. What a great story about God's power and how important it is to honor God and honor God's name.